keeping a watch on the growing arc of violence. The present period is proving to be an unpredictable one for most parts of the world. Violence is raging across parts of Europe and in West Asia, while several other regions are facing internecine conflicts to varying degrees. At the risk of repetition, it can be said that the world order after 1945 has broken down irretrievably. The prolonged war in Ukraine, alongside the wanton targeting innocent civilians in Gaza and West Asia by Israeli armed forces, underscore a reality that the United Nations Security Council and ICJ have become mere bystanders, if not complicit, in most events of this nature. For political philosophers who still hark back to the earlier era, it should be evident that the principles enunciated in Dutch philosopher Hugo Grotius have today become part of the detritus of history. There is no longer any common moral community governed by eternal and immutable ideas of right and wrong. What is apparent today is a wasteland of morality. It would indeed be a gross misjudgment of countries that are in driving seat today, especially those active in the West Asia, were to believe that the current actions are likely to contribute up to permanent peace. The war in Gaza and Lebanon may have given Israel and at one stage removed the United States an impression that peace is at hand in West Asia, also that they had effectively undermined that the Iran-led axis of resistance and considerably reduced Tehran's influence in the region. Viewed dispassionately, current events can at best be viewed as a Pyrrhic victory, the impact of which is uncertain. A great deal of subterranean activity is meanwhile beginning to be seen, the outcome of which is unlikely to lead to a lasting peace. First and foremost, Islamist terrorism has hardly been blunted, nor have other major concerns which have existed for decades abated. Calls for global jihad and activities by lone wolf attackers can still be heard. More important, today Islamist terrorists are being radicalized online and have not by any means contained. The belief, hence, the Islamist terrorism is no longer a serious threat would be incorrect. It would indeed be a gross misjudgment if the countries that are in driving seat today, especially those who are active in West Asia, were believed to their current action are likely to contribute to permanent peace. War in Gaza and Lebanon may have given Israel at one stage removed the United States an impression that is at hand in West Asia, also that they had effectively undermined the Iran led axis of resistance and has considerably reduced Tehran's influence. Viewed dispassionately, current events can at best be viewed as a Pyrrhic victory, the impact of which is uncertain. Most experts hew to the view that Islamist terrorism 3.0 is still alive and threatening. It is multifaceted and decentralized and is increasingly digitally empowered, making an evolving threat to global security, possibly more so in earlier decades. The weakening of Al Qaeda and Islamic State and temporarily should not hence contribute to a belief that Islamist terrorism had weakened irretrievably. Rather, the signs are that it is rapidly adapting to digital terrorism, spreading extremist ideologies through social media, and provisioning for an increased role through decentralized groups. In essence, it is evolving into a different avatar. Dealing with this new phase of terrorism can prove difficult. Finding the right method to deal with this problem will not be easy. Islamist terrorism has been evolving for a long time. If 1979 is regarded as a critical turning point in the evolution of a new wave of Islamist militancy, then a quick look at its evolving dimension over the past few decades may prove useful in finding a solution. It was in 1979 that a new brand of militant Islam reared its head in Afghanistan. It was a die-hard Sunni brand, and in Iran, it was the Shia variant. Both separately, though not jointly, were seeking to bring about a general uprising throughout the Muslim world and even beyond, aimed at overthrowing infidel and pro-Western regimes. Radicalization on the Sunni side resulted in the formation of Al Qaeda and the IS, mainly in Syria and East. Talking of global jihad, the jihad was waxed and waned over the years, and while Al Qaeda concentrated its activities outside of West Asia, the IS remains essentially confined to West Asia. While jihadism has by no means been defeated for now, it does appear that the internal dynamics of global jihad may have altered to some extent. Sunni radicalization has been on the uprising lately, but global jihad is no longer their clarion call. This is notwithstanding renewed calls for unity in the Arab world against the Zionist enemy. Arab states are instead increasingly falling back on their safeguarding their national interests. This has impacted the region's political landscape and will impact the future's politics of West Asia and beyond. Meanwhile, the terrorism per se is witnessing a revival of sorts. Both the IS and Al Qaeda are showing signs of resurgence. The Al Qaeda has resumed training camps in Taliban run Afghanistan, while the IS affiliate operating in Afghanistan, Islamic State in Khorasan province, is beginning to expand its footprint, moving further afield to hit targets beyond Afghanistan and Pakistan. Sporadic attacks in Moscow, Iran, and Turkey do reveal newer footprints. Increasing attacks on military facilities and transport have also been reported in Pakistan, while isolated attacks have taken place in Bangladesh, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. Sporadic terror attacks in different countries across the globe do not necessarily herald at this point a return to the kind of a large-scale terror attacks seen previously. Nevertheless, a succession of smaller scale terror attacks, including of late in countries in the West, have given rise to concerns in security circles about a possible recrudescence of terror and on a wider scale than what was seen in the past decade. As matters stand today, the security agencies across the world do believe that a determined effort is still needed to effectively decapitate the terror apparatus before it takes on a more serious dimension. Two recent terror incidents have jolted security agencies in the US out of their complacency about possible terror attacks. In January, a yet to be detected explosion took place in Tesla Cybertruck in Las Vegas outside a hotel in which US President Donald Trump was staying. The occupant of the Cybertruck was found dead inside the vehicle. He was later identified as someone who has previously been with the US elite special forces engaged in counter-terrorism abroad. In another and separate incident in New Orleans, New Year's Day, Shamsuddin Jabbar, a 42-year-old American citizen and military veteran who had worked as an IT specialist, drove a truck into a crowd in New Orleans, killing 40 people and injuring 35. His vehicle had a black IS flag attached to it. Jabbar was shot dead by authorities before he could be interrogated, but an analysis of the incident suggests careful planning. The two incidents occurring side by side has given rise to fresh concerns of revival and resurgence of IS-style terror attacks. Both US nationals, for instance, had military background. Additional concerns relate to advent of new category of recruits into terror ranks. Meantime, US intelligence services claim to have foiled a plot in Virginia. Counterterrorism experts hence have reason to believe that there is ample cause to be concerned. The two incidents have also revived memories of similar vehicle attacks in France and other European cities during the heyday of the IS. Hence, most counterterrorism experts believe that the world needs to be prepared for a new wave of terror attacks. The fact that more and more information is forthcoming about a fresh wave of proselytization by the IS and Al Qaeda recruiters employing the most modern methods, including artificial intelligence, is again highly disconcerting. The message that comes through is loud and clear is that while matters relating to new terror methods and terror attacks are possibly still at an early stage, the warning should not be ignored and the steps to be taken at the earliest to prevent a fresh wave of terror. An aerospace expo to further India's global presence. Aero India 25, which is being held at the Indian Air Force Station at Yelahanka in Bengaluru, is more than just an exhibition. It is a platform for innovation, strategic alliances, and technological advancement. The edition this year promises to redefine the standards of aerospace expositions. As the 15th edition, the show is set to become the landmark event in India's journey towards self reliance in defense production. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, this premier air show has grown to become a global hub for aerospace innovation, collaboration, and strategic partnerships. The theme this year, The Runway to a Billion Opportunities, encapsulates India's commitment to fostering cutting edge advancements in the defense technology while opening new doors for international collaboration. As the Secretary Defense Production, it is a matter of great pride for the writer to witness the remarkable transformation of India's aerospace and defense manufacturing capabilities. What began in 1996 as a modest aviation exposition has today evolved into one of the most significant global defense events. With an ever increasing footprint, Aero India now attracts top tier defense manufacturers, policymakers, industry leaders, and visionaries from across the world. Past editions have witnessed extensive participation from industry players and innovators, and Aero India 25 is poised to surpass milestones, serving as a dynamic platform to propel India's defense production and technological prowess onto the global stage. Aero India 25 is set to witness participation from leading global and domestic defense manufacturers, reaffirming its status as a premier defense and aerospace exhibition. A total of 106 OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, including 55 foreign OEMs in 19 countries such as Brazil, France, Israel, Japan, Russia, South Korea, United Kingdom, and the United States have already confirmed their presence. 16 defense public sector undertakings have also confirmed their participation. Additionally, 35 Indian OEMs, including industry giants such as Larsen and Toubro, Bharat Forge Limited, Adani Defence and Aerospace, Mahindra Defence Systems, BrahMos Aerospace, Ashok Leyland Defence, BHEL, and ECIL will showcase their cutting-edge advancements, reflecting the growing synergy between public and private sectors in bolstering India's defense manufacturing ecosystem. For the first time, the exposition will feature two of the world's most advanced fighter jets, the Russian Su-57 and American F-35. Russian Su-57 and American F-35, the cutting-edge aircraft will offer aviation experts and enthusiasts a rare opportunity to analyze their capabilities and performance. The Su-57 is engineered for a superior stealth and agility, and F-35 is renowned for its technological superiority. This unprecedented participation signals India's role as a central player in global defense diplomacy and aerospace progress. India will showcase a model of its fifth generation aircraft, Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, which is in the development stage. The indigenous design and development of the twin-engine fighter fifth-generation stealth fighter aircraft with 75% domestic content will propel India into a select league of nations having capacity to make their own fifth-generation aircraft. Another most anticipated segment that will be on show in Bengaluru is the Manthan, a dedicated platform to promote startups and innovation in aerospace and defense sectors. Manthan, a dedicated platform to promote startups in aerospace and defense sectors. The event showcased pioneering advancements from the Indian startups at the IDEX Innovations for Defense Excellence Pavilion, reinforcing government's commitment to fostering homegrown solutions that cater to domestic and international defense requirements. The Indian Pavilion will serve as a testament to the country's firm commitment to make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, displaying an impressive array of indigenous defense manufacturing capabilities and state-of-the-art technologies. In order to ensure a seamless experience of over 7 lakh visitors expected in this edition, significant improvements have been made in collaboration with the national and state authorities. Key enhancements include optimized traffic flow made possible by expanded roads, designated routes, and real-time monitoring to ease congestion, in enhanced transport services such as comfortable shuttle options to facilitate trouble-free access for attendees, robust security arrangements for a form of multi-tiered security strategy with advanced surveillance, ensuring the highest safety standards, comfort-driven amenities, and spacious halls, increasing seating zones, improved dining facilities, and dedicated assistance booths for visitor convenience, and specialized Aero India 2025 application for update schedules and navigation assistance in real time. Beyond the static exhibition of cutting edge military aircraft, visitors will witness an enthralling aerial display offering a glimpse into India's growing air combat and technological progress. Additionally, aerospace and defense seminars, live technology demonstrations, and interactive sessions will provide industry stakeholders and enthusiasts valuable insights into the latest advancements in these rapidly evolving sectors. Aero India 25 is a definitive statement of India's intent to emerge as a global leader in defense and aerospace production as the nation strides towards achieving greater self reliance in defense manufacturing. This event serves as a crucial catalyst for bridging technological gaps, fostering innovation, and strengthening international partnerships. Given the nature of anti-incumbency wave, the Bharatiya Janata Party's Delhi win was on the lines predicted, but the defeats of Arvind Kejriwal and Sisodia are inexplicable. Result need not resonate across the country, but it confirms that Congress party has lost whatever sheen it had in the past. The MFI ordinance Karnataka governor returns a microfinance ordinance saying it existing laws can be used to curb harassment was one that was created without consultation within the House and even regulators such as RBI, which governs the MFI sector, whose view are paramount on the maximum interest rates. The ordinance could have had the effect of driving credit deprived poor and rural workers back into the hands of serious moneylenders. While there is no doubt that agencies that use illegal, strong arm tactics for recovery need to be kept in check, this is by no means confined to MFIs. This is seen in case of credit cards and loan recoveries by scheduled banks and NBFCs. It is a law and order problem, and the errant parties have to be punished on case by case basis. By and large, all governments are cash strapped and unable or unwilling to support the needy with minimum credit lines or underwriting, thus leaving them at the hands of unorganized private players. MFIs sought to address this problem through a well-regulated market mechanism. They are also tightly regulated. However, often for political reasons, governments get into fray by wantonly waiving loans and micromanagement measures, thus threatening sustainability of this industry. Higher allocations are not enough to boost scientific research. The Budget 25-26 announcement suggests a potential bonanza for scientific research. Finance Minister outlined 20,000 crore budget support for developing small modular reactors with the goal of readying 5 such reactors by 2033. Another major initiative is Research Development Innovation Fund, including included in the DST's expected expenditure. This substantial allocation is expected to benefit startups in sunrise sectors, though these remain undefined. The expectation is that private sector entities will receive financial support to boost R&D, a domain historically dominated by government funding. India's R&D landscape has long suffered from low private sector participation. While government funding has driven most scientific advancements, private investment in research has remained inadequate. Currently, private sector R&D contribution is only 36%. Overall R&D spending was 0.64% of GDP in 2020, the lowest since 1905. Over the last 5 years, businesses and enterprises have accounted for almost around 40% of government R&D expenditure. Public sector R&D units allocated only 0.3% of their sales turnover to research compared to 1.46% by the private sector. The government's 20,000 crore infusion hikes the DST's total budgetary allocation to around 28,000 crore, over 3 times last year's allocation and 7 times the actual expenditure. These figures are encouraging, but a key concern is whether such massive investments can effectively be absorbed. Despite India's strength in technology, driven sectors such as fuel, metallurgy, pharmaceuticals, textiles, IT, and biotechnology, returns from core R&D and D and intellectual property generation are still meager. Though the government has launched ambitious missions in quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and other cutting edge technologies, and supporting infrastructure remains inadequate, India still lacks the essential building blocks, chipsets, semiconductor fabs, a skilled engineering workforce, and a strong innovation ecosystem to fully capitalize on these investments. Without these, the lofty targets set for R&D growth risk fall short. The government must present a clear roadmap on how private sector entities can access these funds and what tangible benefits the public can expect. To truly transform India into a research powerhouse, the focus must shift to strengthen foundational infrastructure, incentivizing private innovation, and ensuring long term sustainable engagement from industry leaders. India's opportunity at the AI Action Summit in early January, India accepted France's invitation to co chair AI Action Summit on February 10 and 11 in Paris. The summit will be the third of its kind following meetings focused on AI safety in UK, South Korea 24. In addition to AI safety, the agenda at Paris is to be focused on innovation, public interest, AI, future of work, and AI governance issues, presenting India as an opportunity to continue its global engagement on AI safety and also amplify the voice of Global South on broader issues. This article outlines how India can leverage the opportunity to advance three key priorities for the Global South. Doing this well could also strongly position India to host the next such summit, which brings together decision makers on AI policy, industry at the forefront of AI development, and civil society representatives for inclusive dialogue on AI. The first meeting in Bletchley Park focused on safety of frontier AI models, the emerging risk of AI, and launched the UK AI Safety Institute. The second meeting in Seoul expanded the scope of the conversations to multilateral collaboration on AI risk management through a network of AISIs with current countries or blocs such as the US, France, Singapore, Japan, and the European Union, with ministerial and high level bureaucratic representation. Through the meetings, India has actively engaged in the global discourse on AI safety. As the next step, India's IT minister recently announced plans of setting up an AI safety institute in other multilateral fora with leadership roles. India has championed the cause for Global South, which has not leveraged the transformative potential for AI as much more developed parts of the world have. The G20 endorsed a pro innovation regulatory governance approach to balance AI innovation. Soon, the GPI meeting hosted in India in December 23 emphasized the need for equitable access to critical resources for AI research and innovation. India's vision for Global South could now benefit from the broad agenda of the Paris meeting. To maximize this opportunity, India should focus on three key strategic priorities. First, India must advocate for democratizing access to AI resources across entire AI value chain. While India's domestic initiative of establishing a common computing facility with 18,600 GPUs and 40% government subsidy sets a compelling example. The scope must expand beyond computing hardware. This includes ensuring equitable access to data sets, data storage infrastructure, cloud computing platforms, foundational models, application development platforms. In addition, India should promote distributed computing solutions, an alternative to traditional computing infrastructure. Distributed computing solutions and access to innovative safety tools like watermarking technology. The promotion of open source AI models deserves particular attention. DeepSeek's success demonstrates both the potential of open source models and the need to address export control measures that currently constrain model AI model development. India must advocate for a more flexible cross-border transfer of AI technologies while maintaining appropriate safety standards. Secondly, India should call for developing a framework for identifying and prioritizing AI use case relevant to the Global South unique context. This approach ensures that AI applications serve local needs rather than becoming solutions in search of best problems. Instances include early disease detection systems adapted to local healthcare infrastructure, personalized learning platforms that account for diverse educational contexts, and agricultural productivity tools calibrated to regional farming practices. The establishment of an AI use case repository following the summit could provide guidance for the Global South in determining its priorities. Third, India must emphasize the risk of contextualizing AI risk for Global South. The challenges faced by developing nations often differ significantly from those of global north. Cultural erosion through exposure of large language models trained on Western data represents one unique set risk. The Joshua Bengio-led expert report on International Scientific Report on Safety of Advanced AI highlights Joshua Bengio-led expert report, Joshua Bengio report. Probability of an occurrence of harm and severity of that harm risks are thus future-looking but grounded in already occurred harm. In Paris, India must call for collective evidence of AI-related harms, grounded in global South context to inform their risk mitigation strategies. A repository of AI-related harms could also help inform any future regulatory approaches. As co-chair of the Paris meeting, India must leverage its position to advance the key AI priorities of the Global South. Doing so would so position India as an ideal candidate to host the next AI Action Summit. This would in turn cement India's role as a bridge between the AI superpowers in the global north and developing nations. Number of Russian drones shot by Ukraine 70. Asylum request granted by Denmark at historic low in 2024. Investment promises before Global Investors Summit in MP 1.8 lakh crore. Share of candidates who lost their deposits in Delhi polls 80%. What does the budget offer railways? Knowing that the disappointing financial numbers will not be touched upon, rail watchers, industry, and market clumb to one lifeline capital expenditure. However, much anticipated capex push fails to materialize beyond last 2 years 2.62 lakh crore, signaling that even the government is pausing to reassess. The erstwhile railway budget, presented a couple of days before the Union budget, was once a grand spectacle where the Indian Railways awaited its moment of glory. But since its merger, the Indian Railways has been reduced to a mere footnote. In fact, in the last budget, as also in the one presented on Feb 1, it did not even get a passing mention. Knowing that disappointing financial numbers of Indian Railway will not be touched upon, rail watchers must cling to one lifeline: capital expenditure. With the Indian Railways' own earnings barely covering operational costs, the government's increase in budgetary support to the Indian Railway has been kept show running. Over the last decade, a staggering 13 lakh crore has been pumped into modernizing infrastructure. Electrification has soared to 95%, track length has expanded, and rolling stock has seen record addition. And yet, the returns are underwhelming. Free traffic is crawling at just 2% growth despite India's booming economy. And while passenger revenue is rising, the patronage remains low below COVID levels. The budget delivered more on the same accounting jugglery to keep the operating ratio below 100. It did not mention any discussion on past announcements. The much anticipated capex failed to materialize beyond last 2 years 2.62 lakh crore, which in real terms is a correction downwards, signaling that even the government is pausing to reassess. In the absence of any more signs in the budget, one can only draw clues from the post-budget press conference given by the Railways Minister. Minister said that the immense trust has been given for the development of infrastructure, modernization of stations and trains, enhancement of connectivity, safety and comfort of passengers, and the construction of new railway lines, doubling and gauge conversion and addition of new rolling stock would proceed at an accelerated pace. He added that since 2014 an average of 150 km of new tracks have been laid annually as compared to the average of 113 km annually from 2009 to 2014. This is a positive announcement as the enhancement of rail network and elimination of saturation will help in improving mobility and connectivity. The minister further announced that safety related initiatives will receive an enhanced budget allocation of 1,16,000 crore while the Indian Railway has done well in grade separation work. The most pressing safety issue is proliferation of coverage. There was no mention of any increase in coverage for 25-26. In fact, the initial rollout of 1465 km near Sikandrabad, not a single kilometer has been added. While the minister continued with proclamations of massive investment in Amrit Bharat station redevelopment projects, tangible outcomes are visible only at Gandhinagar, Habibganj, Bayappanhalli, Cuttack, Ayodhya, and Charlapalli. A stark example of Indian Railways' lackluster execution is the New Delhi railway station, one of the busiest and most high-profile rail stations, whose much-hyped transformation into the world-class hub has been stuck in an endless cycle of retendering for nearly a decade. With all redevelopment now being carried out in engineering, procurement, and construction mode, the following the failure of PPP projects, a key question remains: how will these edifices be maintained when the railway expenses are outpacing earnings? The minister mentioned that Indian Railways has achieved an average electrification rate of 294 kilometers per year from 2014 to 2025, 16 times higher than 18 per year achieved during 2009-14, with India slated to become the only 100% electrified and thus the greenest railway in the world. This raises some uncomfortable questions. Has the electrification outspaced necessity, rendering approximately 5,000 diesel locomotives worth 30,000 crore idle or underutilized? Further, much of the electric powering in Indian Railway still comes from fossil fuel based plants. It was declared that 200 more Vande Bharat trains would be introduced without any mention of a timeline. There has been also no word on major pending projects such as Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, the Mumbai Ahmedabad High Speed Rail, or the conversion of ICF coaches to Vande Bharat standards. Instead, we were treated to a grand proclamation. India aims to build a 7,000-kilometer high speed railway network supporting speeds of 250 km by 2047. A vision distant and devoid of clear-cut strategy, it seems no more than a daydream than a roadmap. The real sleight of hand, however, was the declaration that Indian Railway is poised to become the world's second largest freight carrier, touching 1.6 billion tons in cargo. Given India's size, this number is isolation and meaningless in isolation is meaningless. The real question remains: how will the Indian Railway reclaim its eroding freight share? Can it improve train speeds and comfort beyond token second class coach additions for yet another year? The budget suggests that Indian Railway is not on track to transformation, it is merely chugging along, waiting for the next headline grabbing announcements to arrive. The Railways Minister said that immense thrust has been given for development of infrastructure, modernization of stations and trains and enhancement of connectivity and safety and comfort of passengers. There was no mention to increase any increase in coverage for 25-26. In fact, since the initial rollout of 1465 km near Sikandrabad, not a single kilometer has been added. The real sleight of hand, however, was the declaration that Indian Railway is poised to become the world's second largest freight carrier, touching 1.6 billion tons of cargo. Given India's size, this number in isolation is meaningless. How has the budget allocated funds for urban development? Does the union budget focus on capital intensive projects? What about funds for urban local bodies? In 2015, NDA government positioned urban development as the key pillar of its growth strategy as cities contribute nearly 67% of GDP. However, in the government's vision for a Viksit Bharat, cities seem to be conspicuously absent. The total outlay for urban development stands at 96,000 crore, higher than the last year's budget proposal of 82,000 crore. However, if a modest inflation rate is taken into consideration, there is actually a fall in the outlay. The revised estimate suggests that only 63,000 crore will be spent by March, reflecting the underutilization rate of 22%. One of the biggest shortfalls in the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, which has an allocation of 30,000 crore, saw a drastic cut into 13,000 crore, but saw a drastic cut in revised expenditure to just 13,000 crore. This highlights a gap between policy ambitions and actual implementation. The increase in total urban outlay is much aligned with the urgent need to bridge infrastructure gaps in cities. Instead of focusing on employment and sustainable development, emphasis remains on capital intensive projects. Transfers to urban India primarily occur through three channels: direct transfers, urban local bodies, centrally sponsored schemes, and central sector schemes. There has been reduction in direct transfers to urban local bodies with an abolition of octroi, a key revenue for cities. The expectation was that lost revenue would be compensated through the central devolution. With the introduction of GST, some revenue for ULBs fell over by 21%, but instead of increasing support, the share of ULBs has actually declined from 26,000 crore last year to 26,000 crore this year. The shortfall will force cities to raise their own revenues. The CSS involves cost sharing between union states and local governments. Some major urban programs under this include PMAY, Swachh Bharat Mission, Atal Amrut, and Smart Cities Mission. However, the budget allocations for these schemes falls flat. The PMAY CSS component saw 30% reduction in allocation compared to the last year. While the SBM Urban retains the same outlay as the last year at 5,000 crore, revised estimates indicate that only 2,000 crore will be spent, 56% less than the allocated amount. Central sector schemes are directly controlled by the union government and often have political overtones. A major share of such development is directed towards capital intensive infrastructure projects, particularly metro rail. Unlike the other urban initiatives, metro projects have seen increased allocations in FY 24-25. The budget for mass rapid transit systems and metro projects was 21,000 crore. The revised estimates was 24,000 crore. Additionally, 25-26 budget proposes 31,000 crore, reflecting 46% increase over the previous year. Prioritizing metro rail over comprehensive urban mobility raises concerns about long-term inclusivity of urban development. A new urban challenge fund of 10,000 crore has been introduced in the budget. The government has set an ambitious target of 1 lakh crore to implement urban redevelopment programs. However, half of this funding is expected to come from private investment, an over optimistic approach given the sector's negligible contribution to the smart cities mission. The budget's approach to urban development is clear: emphasis on capital intensive projects and less focus on employment generation, green jobs, sustainable economies policies. While infrastructure investments are necessary, neglecting social and economic equity could widen existing disparities. The total outlay for urban development stands at 96,000 crore, higher than last year's budget. A new urban challenge fund of 10,000 crore has been introduced. Government has set an ambitious target of 1 lakh crore. While infrastructure investments are necessary, neglecting social and economic equality could widen existing disparities. The actor voiced Pinocchio as well as this character was Dick Jones Alexander, named the island in the Pinocchio Pleasure Island. The movie is based on the works of Carlo Collodi, wrote in it La Storia di un Buratino. This person sang the song which won the Best Original Award for Pinocchio. Cliff Edwards, styled with a signature blue top hat, the character Jimmy Cricket. Guillermo del Toro. The powerhouse of the Ranji Trophy has historically been Mumbai Bombay team, which has won the tournament record 42 times. Which state or team second best? The second best is just 8. Wasim Jafar holds the record of most runs in the Ranji Trophy, which has batsman 443 not out. Speaking of Bradman, while also a Test cricketer, had 98 average of 98 after scoring 3,600 runs in the Ranji Trophy. Plan to amend nuclear liability laws may enthuse American and French firms. Biren quits as Manipur CM after meeting Shah. Gold smuggling has reduced after import duty cut. CBIC chief in pole-bound Meghalaya rat hole coal mining hopes ride on Article 371. Maintain a diary to track irregular periods. E-rickshaw driver held for rape murder of minor. Only 26 of 46 NDA MLAs took part in the meeting held by Biren. Atishi resigns to continue in post till the new government takes over. Farmers hold political and economic strength. Farmers hold political and economic strength. Vice President. LG's actions excise probe APDA led to AP's election setback. Global confidence in India's aerospace capabilities is growing, says Rajnath Singh. Aero India, biggest air show in Asia to begin in Bengaluru. President to visit Mahakumbh in Prayagraj today. In a first, Chief of the Air Force and Army fly together in light combat aircraft Tejas. US aircraft to be a major draw at Aero India. Fifth generation F-35 fighter jet, the aerial refueling tanker KC Stratotanker and B-1 supersonic heavy bomber and F-16 fighter jets are among the aircraft from the US that will be displayed. This is the 50th time the US is participating. At Aero India, more than 2 dozen US exhibitors will engage with Indian counterparts, explore new business opportunities, and demonstrate innovative solutions in aviation and defense. These companies will display advancements in unmanned aerial systems, fighter aircraft, advanced avionics, and defense electronics. Market downturn, don't make these mistakes. Israeli forces to killed 2 women in West Bank, one victim pregnant. Displacement of Palestinians threaten West Asia, says Iran. North Korea Kim slams partnership between US, South Korea, Japan. Namibian independence leader Sam Nujuma dies at 95. Will do the job of executing Trump's Gaza's plan. Israel PM Netanyahu's Palestinian state on Saudi land remark flayed. Israeli forces withdraw from a key Gaza corridor. After demolition of Mujib's house, focus shifts to party launch of student activist. New Delhi's remarks are unwarranted, says Dhaka, asserting that demolition of residence of Bangladesh founder Mujibur Rahman country's internal matter. The interim government on Saturday said India remarks on the incident was unexpected and unwarranted. Will the baby be a boy or a girl? SRI gene claims to have the answer. All eggs are alike, but sperm are not. All eggs contain one copy of each of the other chromosome plus one copy of the sex chromosome. Sperm cells also contain one copy of each of the chromosome, but only half of them contain X chromosome. The other contains other sex chromosome Y. The Y chromosome, which leads to maleness, contains SRY gene. An XY embryo that receives SRY gene renders non-functional by mutation, develops ovaries which produce estrogen, and leads to the development of female characteristics. In SRY positive females, the translocation S chromosome is inactivated. The inactivation silences the SRY, allowing the female development. That only silenced SRI can persist in a female's genome underscores a significance in triggering male development. Sinuses, little balloons in the face. Sinus refers to paranasal sinus, air filled with sacs arranged around middle of the face. Telescopes around the world spotted a colossal radio jet issuing from a quasar dating back to first billion years of the universe, twice as wide as Milky Way. This jet of radio waves is the biggest ever detected so early in the history of universe. 30 Maoists, 2 Jawans killed in Chhattisgarh encounter, Pirin quits. Supreme Court to hear plea to grant Rohingya access to public schools, hospitals, ensure BJP delivers on its vows. Will not reclaim funds given to ineligible beneficiaries of Ladki Bahin Yojana. As MP Reddy's new home for cheetahs, locals share woes of being neighbors to the big cats. From India requires a multi-pronged strategy to transform into a global study destination, not just for its own students, but also for international learners. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.